All right. All right, so learning alternatively, new tech and assessment. So probably one of the reasons why you're in here today is because either I bugged you incessantly about joining, or you saw this and thought, hey, let's see what she can do. All right, so just want to make sure you can see. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. And if you're not familiar with this program, first of all, part of the idea of being engaging and being interesting when it comes to a lot of the things is, unfortunately, we do work in a bubble right now that involves a little bit of edutainment. So one of the things that I like to do is, PowerPoint is nice. I am not coming down on PowerPoint at all, but it does get to a point sometimes where it's like, okay, flip the screen, read off the screen, flip the screen, read off the screen. The very first thing that I know a lot of you know about, but some of you may not, is this program called Prezi. And one of the really cool things about Prezi is that not only is it a different way of presenting, but it also is a way that you can embed things, and you can put videos in. They've even got this really cool part where it's a building block thing that you can actually impart like 3D images that if you're sending out to a child, they can manipulate if you want them to. So if you get a chance and you want to check that out, it is prezi.com. Okay, so let's go ahead. And that's a really cool thing too. Like if I click over here, it'll, like if you have a child that like, I can't see it, what's it say? You can click on it and go from there. It doesn't necessarily have to follow the path you want it to, but let's get started. So here's what I want to do. We're going to play a game. And you're like, really? She's starting a game? Yes, I am. All right, so here's what we're going to do. It says, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to stare at this picture without writing it down. I want you to try to remember as many band names as you can, because it was the title was Learning Alternatively. I found a screenshot of all of the alternative bands I could think of. And for my 90s babies, hopefully some of these will be memorable. All right, and then after 10 seconds, I'm going to reset the timer. And I want you in the chat box to write down as many bands as you can. And there's a reason for this, and I'll explain it in a minute. So let me get my my fancy schmancy timer here. All right, we are going to start. All right. I'm going to make it even bigger so you can see it. All right, ready to go in 3, 2, 1, start. You have 30 seconds. See how many you can do. Now we're not typing in the chat yet. Right now we're just seeing how many bands we can come up with. 10-second warning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you. Oops, sorry. I really do know how to do this, I promise. Little bit of nerves. All right. So we're gonna take a couple seconds. Just kind of want you to think about it for a second. Okay. All right, now you'll type it in the chat box, and when I say time, you'll hit enter. All right. Ready to go in 3, 2, 1, go. Type as many as you can, and then when I say time, you will hit enter. Not yet, not yet. Not yet. 10-second warning. 5-second warning. And time. Okay, so let's see. Go ahead and hit enter now and see how many names you came up with. Okay. Nice. Seeing a lot of Green Day. That was like my jam. You know, when you were feeling nice. Okay. So the reason why I had you do this is because this is just a lot of the time a quick snapshot of a lot of the ways that we give information. It's put it up on a screen, hand it to the kids. All right, remember as much as you can, and then throw it out there. And a lot of the time, it feels a lot more like look, memorize, remember, regurgitate onto a paper. And you know, we do offer things like I said, the winner today is going to receive a small little award from me. I've got a little Dairy Queen Blizzard card for you, so I'll let you know who the winner is towards the end. So a lot of the times, this is what, you know, this is what teaching can feel like sometimes, especially when we don't have a lot of the tools that we could be using. And it, you know, it's very, very much look at, engage, look at, engage. So let's go ahead and look at another way of seeing it, okay? All right, so here's a different way of kind of looking at it. So I've got a little video here real quick for you. Hopefully you can hear it. It's a video from TikTok, because I love TikTok. It says, the 5th grade teacher explains that she found a breakup letter on the floor while the kids were in gym class. She glosses over the rules about passing notes, but then intrigues and encourages curiosity by asking if it's okay to read the letter aloud. The first part of the video, the kids are like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's how she pulls them in. She pulls them in with intrigue and interest and a little bit of like, ooh, I wonder what's going on here. As we watch, see if you can guess the historical lesson she's about to teach. Really? Of course. Well, if you get a chance to watch it, basically what it was is she was using a breakup letter to get the kids interested. They were getting ready to cover the Revolutionary War, and the breakup letter was obviously the Declaration of Independence. And she goes through and she explains it in kid-friendly language that, you know, all of the things that the colonies at the time were trying to get across to Great Britain of how they were trying to make them feel. For example, she talks about how you make me pay for everything. You even let your friends come stay in my house when I'm not there. You are always treating me badly. And she goes through and she gives examples of those things, putting it in kid-friendly language, but also putting it in language that is easy to understand when it comes to what kids are understanding. So level 1, choose your character. A lot of the times, I don't know about many of you, but when it comes to looking for new resources or trying to keep up with things, it feels like the world of education just changes and changes and changes, and it's constantly evolving, constantly moving, constantly always getting, you feel like you can't keep up. But to start off with, some of the things that I found when I'm going through things is to begin with excellent vlogs, excellent social media presence. Jerry Brooks, got to get your education on. Seriously, I love Mr. Brooks. He is actually extremely approachable. I've interacted with him a few times on some social media websites, mainly it's been YouTube and Facebook. It does take him a little bit of time to get back with you, but he is fantastic. Trevor Muir is the gentleman that we see posting a lot of the things on social media about social emotional welfare of teachers. He also does a lot of interactive ideas with, you know, if we were going to do this, how can we look for that? Scholastic has a lot of information when it comes to looking for blogs and websites and things of that nature. And I even put the website there that you can even look at as of last year. These are the top teacher blogs. Some other websites that if you're looking for some really good ideas, my personal favorite is Edutopia. You can actually sign up for a website or sign up for newsletters, and they will send you stuff either weekly or monthly. And it's all of the things that people are working on, things, and it's a very authentic idea too, because it is, people are not just talking about what works, they're also talking about the things that didn't work. And hey, here is what I've been doing. Maybe you can make it better. And if you make it better, let me know. It's a very collaborative website. And a lot of the time, they'll have guest teachers come in and they'll talk about what they've been working on. Ditch That Textbook. That was actually one that Miss McHenry turned me on to this summer. I took his online course when it came to teaching virtually, and he's got a lot of good stuff. And it's very personable too. Obviously, social media. I know a lot of us are a little bit like, we just kind of want to play in the shallow end of the social media, especially with the climate of things going on right now. But I will tell you, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. For example, on TikTok, if you've got the app, there's a hashtag called Teachers of TikTok. And with that hashtag, you can go through and find people that they're sharing experiences, they're talking about lessons, they are offering information, they are asking for ideas, and you can duet with them. There used to be, and it started out very, very simple too, with things like, hey, my kids came together and we did this collaborative thing just for, creating that good environment, that we did this dance. Do you think your kids can do it better? Twitter is obviously a very good resource, because a lot of times, a lot of educational writers are posting their sites and their websites and their URLs with everything. YouTube is very interesting. Google EDU. I am a Google certified educator, and the things have changed over the last couple of years with the certifications. But the nice part about Google EDU is, even if you're not a Google Classroom teacher, it does have a lot of really good links to things like HyperDocs and ideas like how to work a little bit more collaboratively, how to use a lot of that Google Suite applications, slides and Sheets and Google Docs, and how to get it so everybody in the class can be using it. And it really does lend itself to a lot of virtual stuff. And obviously, Facebook, I know that tends to be a double-edged sword with some things, but there are a lot of really good teacher groups out there. I'm in one that is like a Q&A for Schoology. So a lot of the times, if I'm struggling with something really quick, I can go in there and, hey, I tried this thing and I don't know if it's going to work or not. How have you dealt with it? Another one is it's the We Are Teachers, and in that it's a problem solving kind of deal with, like, how are you dealing with this in your classroom? How are you dealing with this specific thing? And one of the other things too is that I know we're going to be talking about assessments today, but the other big thing too is support. When you feel confident, you're more likely to take risks. Go get that support. Go find those new things. Go look for these new things when it comes to these resources, because I can tell you right now, once you start being okay with it, it's a lot easier to take that risk. All right. So let's move on. So level 2, apply an assessment. Take a minute now, and how do you think you could use some of that information? Like, what are you looking for? Why are you here today? That's my intriguing question of the day. That's my brainstormer. Why are you here today? Why are you looking for alternative assessment? What are you hoping you'll find? Just take a minute. And it even said, if you want to, just put it in the chat, and then, or if you want to, you can chat me privately. That's fine too. Okay. If you think of a reason later, let me know. All right, so obviously choosing your background. One of the biggest things about alternative assessment is that you really do need to set up that safe environment. About because a lot of the time with alternative assessment, you're changing everything for these kids. You are, okay, I got some people, and it decides it actually wants to show me what it says. Come on. Okay. I will take a look in the chat here in a minute. But one of the biggest things about using alternative assessment is that you've got to create an environment where you're not afraid to make mistakes. You've got to admit those mistakes. You know, oh yeah, hey guys, I was looking at the thing last night and I realized I misspelled something. I went ahead and fixed that, but thank you so-and-so for pointing that out to me. The other thing is too is about sharing with your students. A lot of the time right now, especially with teenagers, they see authority as just this autonomous umbrella that is just stopping them from having fun. It's just basically, it's just a wall. And the idea of humanizing authority can go so much farther in life. I mean, a lot of us already do, but I want to encourage you again, humanize authority. Explain to them, you know, tell them you're having a bad day. Share them pictures of your cat. A lot of the times, for example, after Halloween, I shared with my teenagers, you know, what my children look like. They know who my children are. Now, obviously, you don't overshare or anything, but, you know, just give them a chance to see you as a person. And one of the really cool things that I've noticed about this is I've shared enough with my students at this point that, do you know what stopped? When is this going to be graded? I turned this in. Why hasn't that been done yet? When are you blah, blah, blah? You know, my grade is this, blah, blah, blah. Once I have given them the idea and I've encouraged the idea that, hey, I'm not a robot that lives under my desk. A lot of them have been more patient with me, and that grace that I've extended them, it's coming back. The being authentic, don't do this just because it's something, just because. Do it because it speaks to you. If you see something today that you're saying, I could do that, I really could, do it. But if you're just like, ugh, I'm just going to try this, and if it doesn't work, whatever, your heart's got to be in it, because if not, then you're going to lose steam halfway through, and it's going to stop feeling original. The other thing is too, is that not being afraid of silence. One of the things that I was doing when we were in person was that after I would give a large amount of information, we would take what I called a Zen minute. We'd just take a minute, we'd embrace the silence, we'd just sit there and just kind of let everything just settle for a second. And then we moved on. Give the brain a break. You've been writing, you've been typing, you've been looking, you've been thinking, you've been talking. That's a lot of activity, okay? Just take a second and just let the silence fill. The other thing that I offer is the 2-minute timeouts. One of the things you can do is I'll pull up, you know, some nice calming music for a second, and we'll just kind of go through. I've got like a list of things that I say. For example, I'll say something like, all right, we've got this all done. How are things, how are things going for you? Let's just chill for a second. You're safe. We're good. I know you're feeling overwhelmed. Take a minute to just let the wave just stop and relax. And the keep looking, find your flair. Okay, I actually got this from some of my my fellow teachers today. For example, I like to collect cutesy little things. Okay, and you're like, what does this have to do with learning and assessment? I'll get there. For example, this is my little, I don't know if you can see or not. This is my little Patty the paint, or Patty the flamingo. Yep. Sometimes Patty makes a show up in my room every once in a while, and when she shows up, the kids know it's time to go do something else. And she's just a little fun, and she might make a little show every once in a while of doing something and just kind of get their attention. Okay, so let's move on. beyond the quiz. Here we go. The good stuff. Here we are. All right. So to begin with, non-tech, because that was something that was said in the chat earlier, was like, I want to get around tech issues. No offense, Mr. Hatch. All right. To begin with, instead of, and the nice part about a lot of these is that they are K through 12, they are cross-curricular, they are really good ways to kind of sum up everything and to look at how you've gone with what you've finished covering. For example, infographics. Let's say it could be a story, it could be a topic, it could be a technique. The kids can, show me how this is used in real life. They can go to a website called Canva, which works very, very well. It integrates with Google very well. And I said that these were non-tech, but, or if they don't want to do it, they can draw it. And in fact, with the infographic thing, if you've got old magazines laying around, or if they just want to find pictures and print them out and create the infographic that way, that's another thing. Another thing is the family trees concept mapping. For example, even at the elementary levels, let's say you have gone from counting to addition to multiplication. Have them do that family tree, that it started out with counting, and then we moved up into addition, and then we moved up to multiplication, and have the kids see how we are manipulating those numbers. So it's not just that they have memorized that 2 + 2 is 4, they can actually understand and see the topics, why if I put these too many together and these too many together, it makes this many. The next one is the how-to videos, concept concentration, where now you are an expert. I've given you all the information, you have sat through my class, you are officially an expert in this thing. They now have to go back and explain one of the concepts. For example, if it's in math or if it's in science, how do I explain photosynthesis? Or even if they want to, you can get really fun with this, such as, I am a plant. I'm going to explain to you how photosynthesis works today. Another one, and this is especially in the elementary groups, the alternating modalities. This is the cut this out, color this page, glue it down, have them working, differentiated instruction with hands-on. For example, one of the really cool things that I saw was where the kids were building things. They were making 3D things, but this group was cutting everything else out for the class. This group over here was gluing everything together. This group over here was actually, coloring and doing whatever. And then they all came together to see their efforts, and then they started building stuff. I believe they were working on 3D. I'm not a math person, I'm sorry. They were working on 3D things and finding area and volume. Another one is you, the student, teach, which is you give them everything. And this is probably something for middle school or high school. You give them everything. They have to teach the class. And you would be really surprised what some of these kids can come with. And you can be like, I'm going to steal that. Create a textbook page where they can do this online. They can do it with just a piece of, piece of paper, however you want to do it, where if they were going to add a textbook page to what they've been reading so far, what would they add? What do they feel like they need that didn't get covered enough? And how would they offer that explanation? Another one is an advice column where you could just use one of your whiteboards where you put a scenario at the top and then have the kids come in and offer advice. For example, I'm trying to solve this problem. I apologize, my grandfather clock's going off. And it's a little behind. Anyway, so I'm Professor so-and-so, and I'm trying to do this thing. How would you suggest I set up this experiment? Or, hey, I'm a certain person from a point in history. I'm about to do this thing. Do you think it's a good idea or not? And even from the little's point of view, you could say something like, hey, I'm about to do this one thing in science. Can you show me what are some of the tools I would need? Get them kind of thinking well-roundedly. The t-shirt design is another one that they could be doing. with where maybe they have to design a t-shirt as if their favorite characters were a rock band, and they would have to bring in elements from the story that they read and what they remember. Another thing that they could do is that with the t-shirt design is, okay, show me what polynomial equations look like, and then have them, do everything. And maybe at the bottom they can do the whole, PEDMIS thing. Another one is the annotation of reading. Now, a lot of times people are like, this is secondary. No, annotation can be taught at a very, very young age, where basically, instead of you having to grade a whole bunch of everything else for the summative part, you give them, read this thing, and then you have to look at their annotations. What have they gone through? Where are the answers that they've gone through? What questions did they come up with? And see if they are able to actually pull out that information and analyze it in a way that they could explain it back later. Another one is a student run podcast. Obviously, it would start out with teacher-led questions, but then later on, it would evolve into student-led questions. You sit there and listen and tick off your boxes. Okay, they covered this, they covered this, they covered this. We good. And then this was another one that I found that I thought was really cool. It's called a calendar run. It lends itself a lot of the time to things that obviously have time going on. Social studies, walk me through what happened these days to these days. This is when the Titanic left England. At this point, this is when she left Ireland. This is when she got the iceberg notifications, and have them kind of run it through on a calendar so they can physically see what that week looked like. Another thing that they could be doing is, if it's a science thing, especially with like biology, this is the day that the seed was dropped on the ground by the crow. This was the day that after a good rain, it somehow managed to kind of bury itself and they can just kind of watch, and you can see, do they actually get the concept from an abstract point of view of watching it grow and watching it go. Biggest thing, rubrics and examples. Don't offer the kids anything that you're not willing to have done yourself first. Teacher 101. And rubrics are amazing because, for example, with a lot of my writing in class, I've got a rubric now, cut my grading in half. And because I know exactly what I'm looking for, and I can just click, 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 click. And that might be something that, you can suggest to Shelly to do later on. So those are the two big things about the examples and the rubrics. So let's say, all right, those are good, really ways to wrap up things, but what if I want to do quick checks? Well, I'm glad you asked. These are some quick checks, exit tickets, and gauging. And I know that's the English way of spelling gauging, but forgive me. So with the gauging is, the first one is give me 3. And this you can do at the very end of a lesson, where the students have to give you 3 questions regarding what the topic was for the day. And the other students who didn't question have to answer. And if you're like, okay, nobody can come up with questions, well, then maybe you kind of lead them a little bit with it. Not that big a deal. The next one was, and this is something definitely with us using Schoology right now, the kids love emojis. They absolutely adore them. Do a show of emojis. They can give you a thumbs up, they can give you a thumbs down, or, if you were this character right now, how do you think they would be feeling? Show me an emoji. And if they give you something that's a little bit different, have them explain it. Have them, why'd you pick that one? Oh, because of this. Well, what does that tie into? Another one is summary tweets, similar to Sticky Door. If you've used the Schoology app enough, you can have them write on the whiteboard, or if you feel comfortable enough, you could have them use Padlet, or they could even do Twitter if that's something you're comfortable with. Once again, it's very similar to Sticky Door. Sticky Door was where you would give everybody a sticky note, and then at the end, they would have to write a summary or something that intrigued them or something that they want to learn more about, and they just stick it on the door before they leave. The next one is Domino. Domino is where, as the kids are getting ready to leave or as they're getting ready to log out, everybody has to give a specific part of the lesson, and then the next person has to follow up on it, and the next person has to follow up on it. And it's just kind of a good way to see who can remember each part of it. And especially with virtual, there's nobody to look forward in. It's kind of like when we used to do popcorn reading and the kids were like, okay, they're going next, so then I got to read this part. Okay, I'm going to focus on this part. Since they can't really see, they have to kind of think about what they're going to say next, especially for calling out. This one I really liked a lot too was the vocab slap. It's a projector show vocab words. The students would run up and they would slap the ones they think they know. A lot of the time with the Schoology whiteboard, you can put the two boards up there, and then whoever can like put a, just a dot or something up there first. Okay, you've got this, Johnny. All right, so what is this word? What does it mean? How does it work? And they can really it's a really good vocab lesson that they can just do a real quick check on. And then the next one I really liked was the roundtable crowdsource. Basically, in the last minutes of class, the kids do a round. They would sit in groups, obviously social distancing, and everybody would start writing down everything they can think of, and then you switch papers, and then you push the papers around. Obviously, we could do this with Google Docs if we needed to, where one child has a Google Doc, shares it with everybody at their table, and then they all just write down everything. And it's almost like for the day, they've created a real quick and easy study sheet that they can document, and then they can archive later. Okay. Next one, level 4, cheat codes. All right, so here was the big thing that you were asking about. What are you looking for? Here's the fun stuff. Competitive quizzing, we have Kahoot, Gymkit, Quizizz, WordWall, Quizlet Live. Kahoot is an online group that you can create your own. You can use your own quizzes if you like. I've made a few in the past, and you get to decide what's on there, so it's really tailored towards your teaching. Gymkit is very similar, except instead of points, the kids earn money that they can use on power-ups that they're going to use later. For example, let's say I answer a question and I am wanting to double my money every time I answer a question, I can buy that power up, and the kids are constantly competing to see who has the most money. Quizizz is a little bit more new. I actually was turned on to this by Mr. Overstreet at the high school, and what's really cool about that is that it can be timed, it can be untimed, they can have multiple attempts. And once again, you can tailor it to how you want it to look like. The other thing is too, is that if you do it in class, it reminds me a lot, and I'm gonna show my age here. If you remember going into Damon's or Applebee's or Buffalo Wild Wings, and they had the trivia games where you could watch as you're answering, that's what Quizizz really reminds me of, because it's like it shows the question, you answer it, and then the kids can watch a real time of who is winning if you want to do it in class. And sometimes they can even do one that if you're doing like a homework assignment, they can see that as well. WordWall is, instead of it being kind of like it's just a trivia game, WordWall is where it can be with actual interactive games. Like they can do things where they have to drop things in a bucket and then answer a question, or they have to hit the balloons and pop the balloons based on where they're supposed to go. Quizlet Live is a little bit more towards secondary teachers because it's more of flashcards and, here's this information, see if you can quiz yourself. Another one, teacher-controlled presentations. Obviously, we have Socrative, which is a way that as you're giving the presentation, you can throw out questions real quick to check for information, and the kids have to do it. You've got a way that you can do it during the presentation, but then you've got another way where you can do it at the end, kind of doing like a quick check. The next one is Nearpod. A lot of middle school teachers I know use Nearpod, because the way that Nearpod works is you upload your presentation from either PowerPoint, Prezi, wherever, and you control how fast or slow it can go. You can input quizzes, you can input videos, you can even save it so the kids can go back later and go through it, because it also adds a feature where the student can actually download the presentation and save it for later. Edpuzzle is Another one that I really like, because what it does is, let's say you find a video that covers the one thing you're trying to cover today. You upload the you upload the video to Edpuzzle from YouTube or wherever you got the video, and then it lets you edit the video so you can input questions, you can input a time for discussion, you can input a time for just a real quick like ABCD if you need to. And the neat part about it is that you can assign it to the students. It doesn't have to be live. You can assign it to them and they can watch it later and do it that way. And obviously I talked about Prezi earlier. With Prezi too, what's really cool is that you can actually download this presentation into a PDF, pop it on Schoology. And if the kids didn't, let's say somebody can't get to your conferences because they're running out of data, they can download the PDF and look at it that way, and it comes out just like a PowerPoint. Now we have the fun one, student involvement. Let's recap. That is a website that allows you that instead of the kids giving you a written idea, because sometimes we've got students that they may not write very well, but Lord love everything. They can give you a full recap if they're talking. And what Let's Recap does is they get their iPad, they plug into Let's Recap, and they can actually leave you voicemails. Well, I call them voicemails, but basically they can leave you an audio file and you can listen. And let's say you just have everything written down for the day of what you're looking for. Okay, check, check, check. All right, that's a 85. The next one is Everything Explained, which is where you can leave an audio file for the student, or the student can leave an audio file for you. And it's almost kind of like an online way of letting them explain it to others while you're explaining it to them. For example, you would leave your presentation, and then what they would do is, if you've ever been watching a movie before and you go to where it's like doing the director's commentary, Everything Explained is like that. The student can do a voiceover while you're talking, and they can do it in a way that, okay, what she means to say is blah, 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 blah. That way, if another student were to watch it, it would be in a little bit more of the parlance of a student. Fluency Tutor is for my SPED and my ESL teachers. Fluency Tutor is a way that if maybe you need to slow something down, or we need to simplify it a little bit more, offer that differentiation, or even maybe up it a little bit more. Fluency Tutor allows you a way to do that in such that they can read aloud, they can create their own work, they can send the work off for real quick checks and then bring it back. Another one is Parlay. Parlay was an online discussion with responses. It's very simple. It's very similar to like Socratic and Harkness, if you've ever used either of those, where the student can leave like an audio file and then students can comment on it, or a student can leave a physical thing and then the kids can leave audio files. Flipgrid is another one as well that I know a lot of physical education teachers use, because Flipgrid is where students can create videos of what they're being asked to do, especially with those physical elements. For example, if you're working on conditioning, or what are the rules of bowling, or if I want to do this game, what tools do I need? Students can actually create a video where they're walking through and showing you everything, and they can do it in real time. They can do it in edited versions, and then they can just send the video off, and it goes immediately to the teacher, who can look for those things as well. This is where I was talking about earlier, where examples and rubrics, again, lifesavers. And then the fun ones. Oh my goodness. This is the one where, and I'm going to just move it over here. Okay. So last year, our amazing librarian, Miss Crowder, showed us something called Breakout EDU, which was really cool because you could make escape rooms, and you could make neat things where you have to unlock things based on challenges. So Goose Chase is very similar to that, but it's like a breakout room through the internet. So I'm going to go ahead and take you there real quickly so you can come on, you want to work. I apologize. y'all, when if you would, you'll get a chance to look at the Prezi today, and it will show you. But it is really cool. Actually, give me just a second here. No, I'll do that later. Another one is IORAD. It's interactive screencasting, and you're like, well, isn't all screencasting interactive? Au contraire, mon frère. This is a way that you screencast for a little bit and then it stops, and it's almost like it takes a picture of it, and the kids have to do certain things on that screencast before they can move on. For example, if I was giving this presentation and I was like, okay, I would tell it to stop, and then I would say, all right, go to these websites, and it will record that they went to the website. I want you to do X, Y, and Z on this website. It would record that it did that. And then you can move back. And once those boxes have been ticked off, the student can move to another, can move to the next thing. I think this would be something that could be, that's just across the board that I feel like this could be used. Stop motion. My art teachers, my creative teachers, this is wonderful, especially for those of you that are looking at makerspace and project-based learning, stop motion capturing devices. I'm thinking about like growing up watching Wallace and Gromit and the stop motion dinosaur videos and everything else. This is a really good way to, I bet it won't let me go, or maybe it will. Nope. Okay. So there is that. I do apologize. I hope you can check these out on your own, and I'll make sure that these are, when this is put on the website, these will work. But it's stop motion video, and the kids make it. So for example, if I want my little Patty the Flamingo to actually go walking across my screen, instead of me just, you see my hand, they can actually make it like do what it needs to do. Another one is Great Big Story. I don't know about the rest of you, but YouTube kind of makes me a little nervous sometimes, especially after I've watched a video, but you have no idea if like you're streaming it, who knows what ads are going to come up, and it bugs it messes with the flow, and you're trying to do what you're trying to do. Great Big Story, and I'll just wonderful. And Great Big Story is where it says videos with more substance towards content and more focused on educational needs. It's seen as a storytelling website, but they're more focused on specific topics. It's kind of like TeacherTube, but these are, I don't want to say experts, because I'll be very honest with you. I feel like we all are experts in the educational field. We wouldn't have gotten this far if we weren't, but these are more specialized experts. These are people that are working with it consistently. For example, archaeologists and scientists and writers and authors and directors and things of that nature. And they can be very super specific, or they could be a little bit more broad. You can use it as an introduction, or maybe as kind of a reinforcement. And then this last one, this one touched my heart, and I really hope it works, and I bet it won't. Nope. All right, equity maps. We've been talking about equity since the very beginning of the year. If you do nothing else, check this out, especially for when we are going back face to face, because the way that this works is that it tracks who speaks. It tracks when they speak. It tracks who they speak to. It tracks gender and race and everything else. And the really neat part about it is it gives you a screenshot of who is talking throughout the day. When do they feel most comfortable talking? Am I giving everybody the most attention? And you have that actual breakdown of it. And it even says it helps teachers determine better seating charts, productive groups, and determine equity factors. Are the gentlemen overtaking the conversation a lot of the time in certain topics? How can okay, this has been happening for a couple days now. I didn't realize that. I need to bring it back. Or I'm really not giving this specific group a chance to actually come forward and speak, I need to get with them at some point so that I can hear what they have to say as well. I really, really like equity maps. I wish that we could see it today. Hopefully when it gets put up on the website, we can. All right. So obviously, I have a large list of resources and I had it saved. And if you would like to see that, I've got multiple blogs, multiple websites, got a whole bunch of notes and everything too. Some of the things I didn't actually cover today. If you are interested in anything else, by all means, let me know. I would be happy to help you find more things as well. One of the biggest things is that don't be afraid to try stuff. If it crashes and burns, it crashes and burns. If it goes well, figure out a way to use it again. And the nice part about it is too, is that once you start getting away from it, you're more likely to, and don't get me wrong, there is a place for traditional summative informative assessment. But I think that a lot of the time too, once we make it relatable and we show them the differences of things, that it encourages the kids to be more excited and it encourages them to be more engaged. And I think you get more authentic work from them than just them throwing something on a paper and turning it in. And it really, really does discourage cheating as well, because how can you cheat on your own opinion? How can you cheat on your own ideas of things? How can you cheat on your own creativity? So that's the biggest thing. But in the meantime, with 10 minutes to spare, does anybody have any comments or questions that you'd like to throw out there?